Welcome to the Geek Contingent.
This show is rated for mature audiences only.
Now, your host.
Welcome to episode 1 of the Geek Contingent, your new weekly roundup of the biggest news in the world of geek. We aim to give you the best of the updates in around 30 to 45 minutes, as well as our own thoughts, opinions and commentary. This episode was recorded on Wednesday, February 22nd, for release on Monday, February 27th. I'm Mark, one of your weekly hosts here on the show, big lover of Star Wars, Star Trek, Marvel, only to mention a few. I'm a big PC and PS4 gamer. I'm also the voice you heard on episode 0, where I gave a little more about myself. It isn't just me though. We've assembled quite the team here on the show and behind the scenes. I'd like to introduce you to more of your weekly hosting team, Alex and Brandon. Say hello.
Hey.
And in the audio booth, we have our chief audio engineer, Gavin.
Hello!
So how about we take it a bit of a round robin? How about we tell everyone a bit more about yourselves?
So I'm Alex, another one of your weekly hosts here on the show. I'm a huge Whovian, also a massive tech geek into hardware heavily. Other interests being sci-fi TV shows, movies, no real set genre per se though, although I do have a bit of a hidden soft spot for a musical or two, which leads really heavily into my love of music and everything. Pretty much bar rap. Also, just started playing Star Trek Online for the first time on Friday. I think it's safe to say I've got a massive new addiction.
I think that's safe to say. Brandon, how about you?
Hey everyone, Brandon here. If you've heard Mark's voice before on podcasting, you've probably heard mine as well. Mark and I used to do a podcast back in the day together, so it's good to be back. Let's see. Well, I describe myself as a SoCal boy who escaped to Ireland. Recently moved to Dublin, Ireland in January of this year. Big geek when it comes to video games, sci-fi, astronomy. I think as much as I like sci-fi, I like, real fi as well. Playing a lot of video games. I have like a massive backlog of games and shows and movies and books I'm trying to go through. Love tech as well. And also have affinity for Star Trek. It's probably what broke me into like the sci-fi genre. And then also just astronomy and stuff in general. As a kid growing up, I always loved space and the thought of extraterrestrial life, and so I'm excited to be here and chat about all things geek with you every week.
And it's Star Trek that brought us two together originally, wasn't it?
That is true.
So Gavin, how about you?
Well, I have worked in independent cinema projection, live audiovisual, teching for the last 9 years. I have a love of all things sci-fi in pretty much any media except comics, and I'm a massive Star Trek geek and can probably recite word for word most of the films, and probably a good few of the episodes as well. And like Brandon, I'm very interested in the space sciences and astronomy. But I'm mostly here to help out with the audio side of things of this podcast, although you will probably see some blogs on the website about subjects I have interested in.
And obviously dipping in and out of conversation as well.
Yes, I will interject as I see necessary.
Well, now that the formal introductions are out the way, Brandon, why don't you tell us what's coming up on this week's show?
Yeah, so on this week's show, we're going to be talking about Star Trek Discovery, the next Doctor Who actor, and some conventions coming up here in Europe.
Let's get to it.
So first up, we have a bit of news from Star Trek, which will always have a special place here in the Geek Contingent. It was a franchise that originally brought most of us together. In a way, it spiraled down to what you're listening to now. In case you've been living under a rock the past few months, it's time for a breakdown. Star Trek is returning to a series-based format. From what we know, this will be anthology-based. Think American Horror Story for a more recent and culturally relevant comparison to the format. The first of which is set to be Discovery, set in the time of the Federation Klingon War and dangerously close to the original series timeline. We've had trailers that introduced the ship, which initially wasn't well received, we'll go on to that in a minute, and various casting announcements that have been made as time has gone on. Ultimately though, the show has been pushed back from a May release to an unknown release date. The show will air in the USA first on CBS television, then move to CBS All Access subscription service. Canada, this will be brought through Bell Media, and it will also be available in 188 other countries via Netflix as part of a licensing deal, seeing the show appear within 24 hours of its US release. So most of us are aware of Trek and this show, I would hope. What are our first impressions of Discovery? When they announced it, what do we initially think?
Well, for me, obviously, I always said that they needed to do a Star Trek series for the 50th anniversary if they were ever going to do one again. It was like their last shot to do it. So I was excited about that. I think that some of the presentations in terms of how they revealed some of the info, they got a little bit of backlash from it. Remember that first trailer and we see that ship and I don't know about you all, but when I first saw it, I was like, what is that?
Yeah.
I'm still like, what is that? And I was hoping they were going to change it because it seemed like there wasn't.
They might have. There's been rumor and speculation that has been changed.
Well,
I don't want to go into rumor and speculation too much, but there has been mumblings that has been.
In the most recent video that CBS put out, those pictures are still up on the wall and it looks pretty much the same. So I don't know. It's interesting, but first and foremost, I'm a Star Trek fan, so I'm definitely going to give it the time of day it deserves, no matter what it is. I'm going to enjoy it the best I can, and then we could just rant about the rest on the show.
Yep. Wait for episode 1 to drop and us to talk about it here on the Geek Contingent. See, notice getting the plugs in already. Getting the plugs in. We need to start marketing this. Alex, how about you?
I think from a complete outsider's point of view, I was never a massive Trek fan at all, if you know what I mean. I'd watch a movie in passing, I'd enjoy it, but I was never a hardcore fan. So seeing this reboot as such, it's really enthralled me, especially having got into Star Trek Online recently, so it's really got me gripped, and I'm really looking forward to it. But I'm looking at it with complete virgin eyes, so I don't have any precedents or prerequisites, so it looks amazing to me so far.
Gavin?
Well, where do I begin? I want to be very positive. I want to feel excited about it, but there is something holding me back, and I don't really know what it is. Whether that's concern that this is another mini reboot of the franchise where things we are familiar with will be changed. The other thing is, it is the ship, and for me, I am a little concerned that the ship that was revealed in that first teaser trailer, and they know it received bad feedback, is still there in the recent production trailer. But I don't know if anyone else spotted it. There is also the sort of wireframe schematic of another ship.
Yeah.
Whether or not that's a clue that they have redesigned it or not, or it's going to be another regular appearance on the show, I don't know. But for me, my main concern is that they're going to start changing things to do with things which have already been established in TOS, and this is set pretty much right before it. So I'm trying to remain excited, but I'm reluctant to say I really am excited.
Can we call you cautiously optimistic?
Yeah, cautiously optimistic works.
Yeah, I'm kind of the same about that ship that came out. If there's a really good YouTube channel out there called Trek Yards. They kind of have some inside information that ship's really big and everything. I would recommend going out and finding them. But yeah, for me it's the ship. The show is always going to be the ship, and to be a giant flying triangle IDIC sign, it'll need to grow in me. The same way that I know a lot of people Voyager had to grow in them because it wasn't the Enterprise. The same way Deep Space Station had to grow in people because it wasn't the Enterprise. It's just another version, another telling, and what I'm hoping is an expanding universe away from the Enterprise.
Yeah, I'd like to see it stem out from that as well. Get a little bit, I think it's kind of a throw to what the fan productions are doing right now, and kind of what Voyager did was it took the story outside of the Enterprise, which I think is going to be important for a series right now of captivating a new type of audience. But I don't know, the ships have always been so important to me, so I hope they I don't know, I hope the story is some it's a kit bash of parts found, then I'll be okay with it. But if it's
that's an interesting way to put it.
Yeah, we'll see.
So On the back of that, we've also had casting announcements. Out of all of us, has there someone stood out for you? I know there's one for me I would quite like to talk about, but I kind of want to open the floor to you.
For me, I don't even know any of those names, to be honest. So.
All right.
Not the casting per se. I'm willing to give that the benefit of the doubt. The casters in Hollywood know what they're doing, and I'm sure they're going to be great. For me, it's the roles they are playing. Now, in every previous incarnation of Trek, it has been about the command crew, the people who sit on the bridge, or in terms of the doctors in sickbay, but for the most part, the command crew. And they're changing that slightly so that our main character is going to be a lieutenant commander, who may not necessarily be a permanent senior officer who is always on the bridge. It may not be bridge focused or command center focused stories. And that's going to be an interesting departure from every formula of every Trek we've ever had before, including all of the movies and the reboot movies.
True, but who says they're not going to attain command?
Well, we don't know yet, do we?
Well, Alex knows. He started Star Trek Online on Friday, and he was quickly thrust into the role of commanding officer, despite being an ensign.
Blindly thrown into the deep end, not knowing what approached.
Well, for me, there was one that stood out. It was Anthony Rapp. Is a name that stood out for me before. Alex, this will harken back to musicals because you know where I'm going to go with this. He was originally a Broadway performer in Rent, and he's coming on what's rumoured to be Star Trek's first LGBT character on screen, and I think that, mixed with everything else, is showing a very forward-looking, progressive Star Trek.
I am excited about that part. I think that has to be, having a Star Trek series in 2017 that couldn't be anything other but diversity like we haven't seen before in terms of characters and the backgrounds. But I do think it has to be important that, they're not just a LGBT character. It has to actually play a role in the character they are. Yeah. Like if they just do it as a service saying, oh, this character happens to be gay or lesbian, like that doesn't do it. There has to be an integral reason why they're even sharing their sexuality to us.
Mm-hmm. Let's not turn it into beyond that throwaway moment of, hey.
Right. Yeah, it's got a...
character as a husband and
it's
a pat in the back. Yeah.
You can't just make a gay character. You have to have a reason. Because I'm sure that there was, crew, whether they were, not just bridge or whatnot, that we didn't see any of the sexual sides of them. So, but that didn't matter because it didn't play a role in their character. But if they're going to say a character is LGBT, it needs to play a role in why they're even telling it to begin with.
True. Right, let's bring this section to a close. Just a quick yes or no. From what we know so far, is this another reboot of Trek?
I'm going to say optimistically no.
Optimistically yes.
Gavin?
Maybe.
We got the full gamut.
And I know this is my question I'm putting out there. It's not a reboot, it's a reimagining.
Well, on that note, can I address the elephant in the room?
I'll go for your Klingon comments.
We don't know if they are Klingons in that production photo. But if they are, it is an indication that there is a reasonable amount of reimagining of the show going on.
True. We're going to do it with aliens and everything, but I think more news and a wait-and-see approach at this moment would be best.
We really have very little, so that's all we can do.
2016 was a horrible year, especially considering we had to go without a TARDIS. It's been a long 12 months, but after no new Doctor Who's, we'll finally be rejoining the Doctor on his travels. The countdown to Series 10 is well and truly on. This will be Peter Capaldi's last as the Doctor, and for Stephen Moffat, as they both bow out next year. Series 10 will be his victory lap, with 2007's Christmas special marking his ultimate farewell. However, don't expect some grand finale to the end of Stephen Moffat's era. The outgoing boss is insisting his final episodes will all be about pushing forward, not bringing anything to a close or to any sort of resolution. He will hand the keys to the TARDIS over to Broadchurch creator Chris Chibnall, who as a regular Doctor Who writer for several episodes already promises to be a safe pair of hands. Our first proper look at Series 10 features the standard gallivanting through time and space, but also introduces us to a new companion, Bill, played by Pearl Mackie. Thus far, the new season features old threats and new, in the form of the Daleks and emoji robots respectively. We also get a glimpse of what appears to be the Movelons, robotic rivals of the Daleks, last featured in the show way back in 1979. With the confirmed return of Missy, or is that the Master? I begin to wonder if they're testing the waters for a female Doctor. Thoughts, everyone?
As being probably a casual Doctor Who fan, I know there'll be hardcore Doctor Who lovers out there who'll be going, no, I like the idea. As far as I know, there's no law that prevents them from changing gender.
The Master changed gender.
Exactly, Missy Master. It's been done before in older seasons as well, not directly with the Doctor, but it's been hinted at with other Time Lords, so it's always been a possibility. There are a lot of diehard fans who are like, oh no, the dynamic, the panic. For me, I'm really interested in the idea, but cautiously, very cautiously.
So we're probably going to get a bunch of hate mail because of this, but I've never seen an episode of Doctor Who.
Brandon, you're over in these shores now, it's a must.
There is now a new condition, Brandon. You got me playing STO.
I didn't get you playing
And I
nothing.
need to watch Doctor Who.
Oh,
Trade off.
will-
I become a Trekkie fan, you become a Who fan.
I'm going to put it on my backlog after the 30 series that I have to watch. I haven't watched Game of Thrones, and that's like way up there with like, what?
Yeah, what? Anyway, has anyone actually been keeping track, other than myself, of who the favourites are, or who the rumoured sort of potential new Doctors could be?
Only the top one, and I don't want to spoil your list. You know, it's your baby. But other than the top favourite pick, no one else.
So there's a British bookie that recently launched some odds on who favourite is. The top ranking, I have to say I completely agree with, but I'm scared at the potential of it. Tilda Swinton is 7-2 favourite to be the new Doctor
That would
Who.
be amazing. That would be amazing. It's like, have you seen her when she was in The Lion, Witch and the Wardrobe series? She's got potential to take the Doctor somewhere new, somewhere dark, dare I say.
She also harks back to the eccentricity, the weirdness, and just that je ne sais quoi of a Doctor that you just like, are you really from this planet? I've looked at Tilda Swinton, and I don't mean just aesthetically, the way she acts, everything. You kind of look at her in that same sort of manner, and you could believe her being some extraterrestrial.
Yeah, I get that. Anyone else? Gavin's being weirdly quiet. I know he likes Doctor Who now and again.
I'm going to say it. I'm not really bothered about who becomes the new Doctor. What I want is for the new Doctor Who to be good. And by that I mean, I think, although Moffat was very good and he wrote good scripts, to me they got stuck in a bit of a rut. Pretty much every major storyline in the recent past has been about Earth in trouble in some way, usually in London, Cardiff, Swansea, or you know, the usual locations. And I think it should be a little bit more exotic. Doctor Who isn't limited to just Earth, and I think we need to try and get away from the same old bad guys, and by the looks of things they're trying to introduce some new fresh perspective. And for me, if we had a female Doctor, I think it would be the total overhaul that the series needs.
I mean, the joy we really face is we're not just looking at a new Doctor, we're looking at new writing team, new boss, everything. With Chibble taking over, Chris Chibble that is, writer of the Broadchurch, he's done a few old episodes, which were some of the better ones of the last couple of seasons, if you ask me. I couldn't agree with you more though, Gavin. It has become a little stale, not in a necessarily a bad way, but they seem to just have run out of ideas. It has become a little stale, so I'm really looking forward to the new season, seeing how Stephen Moffat will kind of tidy things up a bit. I know he says he's not going to make it a tidy up or a finish, it's all going to be about pushing forward in new directions. I think with the Christmas special that went out there being set in the States, which is fairly newish for Doctor Who, they haven't really done much over in the States side, but again, it's still on Earth, they're bringing in the superhero kind of characters, so yeah, it's going to be a really interesting time for Doctor Who to see how it comes. Some of the other top runners for possible Doctor Who is Olivia Colman, who is another lead actor for Chris Chibble on Broadchurch, so I think she'd be another great shout. But we're seeing a huge amount of people saying a female Doctor, so I think a lot of the fans are crying out for it. There will be some hardcores that aren't for it, but time will tell, I suppose.
Do you think they'll ever bring back some of the older characters like K9?
Well, K9's dipped in and out quite a few times. There's a few episodes recently he lives with Sarah Jane.
But do you think they should bring back some of the old guard from the older Doctor Who series? I mean, there are a lot of story threads which are just left open, especially after the very long gap we had. There's a whole load of stories they can explore.
The backlog of stories is unbelievable. Unfinished lines, it's just immense. But I think that's one of the joys of Doctor Who, that you're always kind of left guessing what's going to happen next, what's going to come. They have hinted at the Movelon's coming back, and I'm never quite sure if I'm pronouncing that right, so apologies hardcores, but I'm not that old to remember that far back to 1979, so I only have VCRs of it.
All right, so what I wanted to talk about this week was GamerCon that's coming up. Now, right now, it's just been announced for Ireland, which is interesting because I thought, man, how am I going to connect with other gamers when I get here? Because you think Ireland's a small place and Dublin's a small place, but no, there's this giant thriving community, which has been really awesome to see. So GamerCon coming up next month. You can check out gamer-con.com for information if you're in Ireland, but according to videos that I've seen also up on Facebook, it's coming to other cities like London, Madrid, Berlin. So if you're in Europe and you're interested in going to a gaming convention, definitely check out this page, like them on Facebook so you can get more info about them. But this one in Ireland's coming up next month, and something I'm really looking forward to with it is the community aspect. I come from the community field when I worked in video games, so meeting other gamers is, I think, my favorite part of the convention. Or even if I'm not at a game convention, like when I've been to the Star Trek convention before, the best part was actually going with my friends and hanging out with them. Sure, it's great to see the celebrities on stage and stuff, but like you can watch videos, and if you've been there before, they say the same things every month. If you've been to one before, the celebrities say the same thing every convention. They just tell the same stories, the same jokes. So it can get a little bit boring. But the best part, I feel, is meeting the community. So at GamerCon, you're going to have that. There'll be opportunities to meet fellow gamers. There's a gaming zone with like 30,000 square feet of games like retro, current, and VR. But they also have a main stage, and this is something I wanted to actually bring up. So they have a main stage, and their big draw to the main stage is YouTube stars. So I guess first things first, I really don't follow any YouTube stars in gaming. Like I feel like in gaming there's live streaming stars, but in terms of YouTube, I haven't really followed anyone because, like, if I'm watching a game, I like to watch it live. I like to participate with the audience, who else is watching with them. So when I saw this big draw, like, that's what their big bet is for this, like, come meet YouTube celebrities. And I'm like, well, first of all, you'd have to like that celebrity or like all of them. And I didn't even recognize any of the names, to be honest, when I went through the list. So I found it kind of interesting. Like, the video that they put together is really focused around coming out to meet YouTube stars. And so I'm interested to hear what you all think about that. Your experiences at conventions. I know, Mark, we've been to conventions together, and like what you'd hope to see at a gaming convention if you were to go to one, or what your thought is like on this like idea that YouTube stars are the main attraction. And I have a few additional follow-up thoughts after that.
I think in terms of YouTube stars, it's kind of like any convention you think. San Diego Comic-Con, the conventions we've been to, they're the initial draw for people. Necessarily meeting the community and things isn't what people would turn their hand to. It's something you get experience of by going to them. So I don't think necessarily saying that YouTube stars is a detractor from it. It's going to bring people in who will get used to the community. They'll come to see their favourite YouTubers and get involved in that. I know personally, when like my first convention was STLV 2 years ago, I had new people were going. I went to meet them, but I think I was in a fortunate position of knowing people who were going already. In terms of a broad spectrum like this, in terms of a convention, you need a niche, you need a hook to bring people in. You think, going back to Star Trek, you go to see the stars, you stay for the people.
Yeah, I mean, I can get behind that. I guess my experience with cons is a little bit different in terms of why I go, and that's fair. But like, they list out, we have the biggest international gamers and YouTubers, and then there's 4 of them, and I've never heard of any of these 4. So that's like, I think conventions are so great for cosplay and for gaming, like going out and playing games and things like that I don't know. I'm optimistic. They're sold out. Well, they're 95% sold out. So it's definitely working in a sense because the tickets are gone. So I'm interested to see how it goes. I definitely report back after I get back. But Alex, have you been to any conventions?
No, actually, I've never actually been to any conventions either. Do you think they're maybe going down the YouTube channel as a USP that's unique, that's not been done before, just trialing something different?
Maybe, but also it also could be a sign that they couldn't get anyone else to come out, which is a little bit scary as well because I know they've been working on this a long time. But yeah, I'm gonna do some research on who these actual people are. But I've never heard of the names, and there's some YouTubers like I would hear their names of before, even with gaming and not knowing them just from being around the gaming industry. But these I just don't know. But I am looking forward to the cosplay aspect and just going with some friends and hanging out. But Gavin, you haven't been to any cons, have you?
I haven't, and I've actually got a question which you brought up in something you were talking about then, was when you go to a convention, or when I imagine you go to a convention about movies, TV shows, some kind of content franchise, as you say, you're there to meet the stars, right? But who are the stars of video games? Who would you actually go and see? Would it be the people providing the voiceovers, perhaps, if they're relatively famous or big names, or the developers?
So for me, like, what I would love to see is developers coming out and like giving presentation. Like, we've heard bits and pieces of like The Last of Us 2 coming out, so like somehow getting Naughty Dog to come put on a presentation about like that, and I mean, you can catch a lot of that online too, and plus Ireland's out of the way from Santa Monica, which is where Naughty Dog is, but just some more on that, like, I'd love to see. But I don't know, or just ditch the whole main stage with the YouTubers overall. Like, I think the draw could be put more on the community side of like, hey, come play games, cosplay, merchandise. We'll have a main stage with like, you know, cosplay competitions and things like that, and maybe presentations from the community on gaming. Like, I went to a video game convention in San Jose, and there was different people talking there who were gamers themselves, people who worked in the industry, and then actual developers, and they brought different experiences, and we're talking about like feminism in video games, or you know, how to take your favorite video game and then role play from it, like things like that, where you can learn how to go deeper into a video game than just playing it or watching someone else play it. Like, how can you make that part of your lifestyle or go further? I think things like that are educational would have been really cool to see, where you could go to different panels and listen to people talk, rather than just watch one person up on a main stage that's in quotation marks famous because of YouTube.
Right, I agree with you, and to go back to something you said at the very beginning, I'm the same as you. I don't like to really watch YouTube channels about gaming because they are almost always biased, or they only focus on one aspect of the game, when me as a player could get something completely different out of the game. So I would be much more interested in watching a presentation or some kind of crowd play with devs and other people than watching some YouTuber produce the same content that they would produce on their channel anyway.
And see, I don't even know if they're going to actually be producing content. They might just be up there being interviewed, and like you could go ask questions. Either way, I'm not going to fault them. It's the first one. They put a lot of work into it. I'm excited to go. I'll definitely report back here how it goes, and hopefully we see this opportunity pop up in other places around the world. I think it's the game industry overall, from what I've seen, just being in it, is very North American focused, because a lot of the games are developed out of North America. So being able to see this in Europe, and hopefully these other cities that they mentioned that they want to come to go forward, I think is going to be really great for gamers around the world. And yeah.
Alright, well, I think that covers us for our main segments this week. Every week we'll try and cover 3, roughly, depending on what there is, but hopefully this segment has given you a flavour, or an initial flavour, of who we are, or some of the things we're going to talk about. From here, we're going to move on to a section called Feedback and Community. In the future, this is where we hope to feature your feedback and questions. Tell us what you thought of the show, have a question from something we discussed, we'll bring it up here. ask it. You can reach out to us by commenting on this post over at our website, www.thegeekcontingent.com.
And if you didn't know, we are also on Twitter, so make sure you go follow us at Geek Contingent, and feel free to tweet us there as well. We'll make sure to bring that feedback and any questions that come in into this segment as well.
Don't forget to like us on Facebook either. Just head straight over to Facebook, search for The Geek Contingent. Not only that, you can email us too at incoming@thegeekcontingent.com. There are so many different ways you can reach out to us and be part of the show, so please do.
Yes, please.
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 We're not begging or anything.
I'm begging.
Sarcasm.
Almost broke into Buffy there.
Oh my god. Right, okay, we need to do Buffy next show. Musical episode.
No.
Well, this wraps up episode 1 of The Geek Contingent, and we thank you for joining us for this, our very first episode.
Like we said, there's lots of ways to get in contact and be part of the show. Facebook, Twitter, email, you know the drill.
And before we go, Gavin, since you joined us today, just special shout out to you for being with us and being our audio engineer, and in advance for all that hard work you're going to have cleaning up Mark and Alex and their crazy accents, right?
I know, it's going to be so hard.
Oh, please. Remember, Brandon, you're over here. You're the one with the accent now.
Hey, that's true, I guess.
Uh-huh.
No, but really, though, thanks to our listeners for listening to this first episode, and please join us for the next one, and do send us that feedback so we can make this show more tailored to you and how you want to see it.
See you next week. And until then, keep it geek.
You've been listening to the Geek Contingent. Tune in again next week for more news, reviews, and opinions on all things geek.